Hi everyone, this is the end of the road on my investigation between the Peter and Jude and Northside Music Limited issue. If you've been following me, you know that I've separated myself from the family and the personal fight. We're simply focusing on the money that was received by Northside Music Limited and not focusing on the personal fight. And the last time we were able to establish who owns Northside Music Limited and what money came into it and how that money via Bureau de Change went into multiple Naira accounts. So today, we're going to be doing some search and investigation into the three companies that actually paid that money. Because like I said, the best way to catch things is to follow the money. So now we know the money came in and we know where it went via Bureau de Change into multiple Naira accounts. But those three companies that the money came from, do they have relationship with Northside Music Limited, or they have relationship with Northside Entertainment Limited, which is that company opened in 2007, and remember Square Records opened in 2012, and then Northside Music Limited, which is owned by Jude and his wife, opened in 2015. So let's start. And Lex Records is simply 51 Lex Records Limited, and it's a UK company with registration number 03773364. Director is Diga Adegboyega Elias. So I tried to find out what songs is linked to Lex Records. Again, 51 Lex, right? I found songs like Do Me that was released in 2008, Alingo released in 2012, and Personally in 2013, You Know Easy in 2009. So all of these songs, if you can see, they were before the 2015 registration of Northside Music Limited. So it does mean that there was contractual agreement between Northside Entertainment Limited with this. So that raises a question. If all these songs were released prior to Northside Music Limited, why is this company paying into Northside Music Limited account? And there's another, so the owner of this company owns several companies like 58 Sudaland Avenue Limited, Jazzdown Limited, 51 Lex Record Limited, which is the one that paid that money. We have Ike's Knox Art Shop Limited, Tracks Limited, CIS Key Records Limited, and most importantly, WYLD Tech Music Publishing Limited, because that song is also credited to Personally Bonus that is on Spotify. So two companies under that same brand that is linked to P Square Music. So another very important thing that we found out, or that I found out here, is that Lex Record has a Nigerian subsidiary. So they do have a company. So while I was reviewing their tax record, again, because it's abroad, all of these things are online. So while I was reviewing their tax record, they did show that they have a Nigerian subsidiary called 46 Limited that was incorporated in June 2011, right? And the director of that company is Oseni Eni Musa, and their director is Baba Jimmy Ayorinde. So, but basically, with Lex Record, you can see that most of the songs that was attributed to Lex Record were all songs released before the establishment of Northside Music Limited in 2015. All the songs were way before that. So there's no relationship that I could establish there. So move on to the next person, or the next company that paid, Kobalt Music Services Limited, who paid a sum of $133,566.49. And Kobalt Music Services Limited is under the umbrella of Kobalt Music Group. So where they have Kobalt Music Publishing American Incorporation, which is a US publishing entity, and they have Kobalt Music Services Limited, which is a UK company with registration number 042222590. And they were attributed to Northside Entertainment Limited. So I'm going to put it right above me. You can see Song Information P Square, composed by Paul Okoye and Peter Okoye, published by Kobalt Music Pub America and Northside Entertainment Limited. Again, you can see that we find affiliations between Kobalt Music and Northside Entertainment Limited. Second question, why is Kobalt Music paying into Northside Music Limited? Because as you can see on my screen, that music was published between Kobalt Music and Northside Entertainment Limited. Again, why are they paying money into the new company? Okay, so the summary of that part for that company is that if Kobalt administered P Square Publishing on behalf of Northside Entertainment Limited, who instructed Kobalt to pay P Square royalties to Northside Music Limited, and where is that authorization? And moving on to the very last company, MTech Limited, that paid a total of 118,662.23. A deep dive into the company says that it was incorporated in 2001, 17 May 2001, registration number RC410965, and the business is mobile technology, VAS, content aggregation, digital music distribution, mobile applications, and mobile monetization, right? And we have the chairman as Sherry Williams. Again, there wasn't so much about this company, but I mean, we can see what they do from their business: digital music distribution and content aggregation. So in all of this, right, to wrap up this without making the video long, is we are finding relationship between this company and Northside Entertainment Limited. There is no single relationship of this company with Northside Music Limited. So big question, how did the money go from these companies to Northside Music Limited? And that's a big question to ask. However, I don't want you to take in a pinch of salt and think that in all of this, Peter has not made some information or said some things that was debunked by court. For example, Peter was talking about a $25,000 split between Jude and Paul, and Jude was able to prove that Peter indeed asked for Hero King to pay him directly. So when the money came into the account, it could not be split into three anymore because he already got this share. And there was another claim that he wasn't a signatory to the Northside Entertainment Limited bank account. But again, Jude was able to show bank document that proved otherwise. And then Peter, that part of the case was struck away in court. So in all of these, don't see me that I'm trying to defend Peter without minding other part, but I'm focusing on the money, and that's why the focus is on Northside Music Limited, not on personally. But those two things were things that Peter also said that was debunked in court. But again, that somebody said one or two things that was false doesn't automatically mean that everything that they said was a lie. And for Jude as well, if he really wants to get himself out of this, he has to show all the tax record of all these companies and all the financials of all these companies, which is yet to do, because Cynthia Morgan sued for that specifically, that okay, if you say I made this money for you, can you show us all the books of account? That's the only thing that can exonerate you, right? So, but moving forward, at the end of the day, with all this story and back and forth, it would not be fine that it ends without an advice. So advice number one is that as an artist, if you are signing any contract, ensure that the entity that is listed on the contract is registered, is valid. Because if you sign a contract with a non-registered and non-active company, that contract is null and void. So moving forward, what should Peter do? Enough of the banter. Peter should ensure that they are paying his royalties directly to his company, or a company fully controlled by him. Or they can split P-square royalties as source between Peter and Paul. That is, they would have to redo the agreement in all those companies. But before doing that, he must, via his legal counsel, obtain and review all existing royalty distribution, publishing, and payment mandates, right? So who pays us? Where is our money coming from? Get me an inventory. When they get an inventory, try and have his payment come to him directly, or they can actually have an independent finance company receive those money and do the distribution, because the trust has been broken. At the end of the day, this is a big lesson that regardless of family, proper documentation must be followed when you're setting up a company. And to the rest of the world, we care that this product settles. We care that all of this stops at some point, but we don't want to keep dragging this. So this is my last video, except something major happens again in the case. I hope that you've learned one or two things, and that's the whole essence of all this analysis, that you become better in your life, that you understand things better, and you make better decisions. I hope that you've really learned, because it's all useless if you've not learned anything on how you manage business, create business, partner with others. Okay, so we'll move to the next case. Until then, have a wonderful day and definitely stay safe. Thank you.